Okay, welcome to the cutting board. Let's just spend 5 minutes having a quick look at the trousers. Classic made to measure trousers by Redmayne. What I think is an off the peg by Xenia. Made for the same man. There are obviously some style differences because Redmayne does not sound like Xenia at all. So it's a different house style. But we'll just have a look at them and and find out what they mean and what the differences are. First of all, let's just talk about the cut. These have reversed pleats. One pleat reversed. You will never get those from us here at Redmayne. We just don't do that. Ours are two pleats forward. That's how we always do it. You can have flat fronted trousers, you can have pleated trousers, but we don't do reversed and we don't do one pleat. We don't do anything half cocked in between. This is very traditional English. It gives a better shape. It pulls the fabric forward instead of throwing it backwards. And another little pet hate, when you press our trousers or pleats in this way, you press right at the leg and the crease goes right into the pleat. This cut, continental cut, you can press up so far, but then you have to flip the trousers around the other way and press in that way. So that's the fundamental thing. They're both pleated trousers, but ours is an English cut, Savile Row, much more traditional, and this is a typical sort of continental Italian. Beautifully finished, very fine. No complaints in the production, as you would expect. This has obviously been worn as well, so that's perfectly acceptable. It's a bit creased and battered up. I don't know how old it is. If you look on the inside, it's quite interesting. Ours is quite simple, and we put a lining in there, a skirt that matches the coat if you're having a coat made with it. It's just the way we do things. We do the same for bespoke. Very simple, kind of no nonsense fastening here. We've got bearer, so it fastens lower, gives a bit of support. Nice strong metal zip, and then two metal hook and eyes give this nice clean finish. He's having side strap adjusters. This one has belt loops, which is typical of ready-mades. Also has two hip pockets. Again, they're often just put in as standard, but I always say to people, do you use your hip pockets? Well, if you don't use them, why put holes in the cloth? So we asked this gentleman the same question, and he's got no hip pockets because they're just not necessary. This is a totally different setup inside, as you can see. It's got a plastic zip. I don't like that, but plastic zips are okay. They're a lot more reliable than they used to be. It has this kind of like peculiar fastening system, which kind of looks nice, I suppose. A little bit complicated. You've got this one button and a little sort of bearer flap thing, and then another button. But quite frankly, if you've got if you're using belt loops, you shouldn't have any of this. If we were doing loops, you would get much the same as that, but we'd cut the extension off, and you wouldn't have any of this flapping about. And we do everything for a reason. That gets too bulky, and that's where you're going to wear a belt buckle. So you want that as trim as possible. So this has got belt loops on it, and it's kind of a bit complicated, but it looks nice, and it maybe sells suits. I don't know. Classic slant pockets on the side, both finished with what we call AMF in the trade. It's like simulated hand sewing on our bespoke trousers, and I have a pair here. This is a pair in front. This is all done by hand, and you may be able to see that. The side strap adjusters are beautiful. They're put on by hand. But if you look at the interior, again, it's got a lining in here. These have been worn, but they have very much the same interior as our made to measure. And they would do, because we're trying to make our made to measure like our bespoke. Metal zips, simple hook and eye, bearer fitting. Alright? Inlays are it is material that we leave inside the garments for two things. One, the real reason is for you to be able to put on weight in the future, and we let them out so they'll still fit you. The other reason we keep quiet is in case we drop a clanger and we need to let it out because we've measured them too small. So we hope we don't use them for 10 years. These are a little bit shy, have very small seams. There's a good inlay in the back, as there is on ours. But what's interesting, this fork area, which is basically where all the four seams meet, like the crutch, there is no real inlay there. Whereas we put in quite a substantial amount there. We can gain another inch. Briefly explain why. In fitting a pair of trousers, you sit in a U. Your legs go either side. If you put on weight, generally on your stomach, that's fine. You can let the back seam out to compensate, and both of these can do that. If you change your shape a little bit through exercise, cycling, start putting on a little bit more muscle, or you just put weight on substantially everywhere, letting the waist out and the seat out isn't always enough. You need to open that U up. You need to give yourself more reach for your stride. So it's important to be able to let the fork out. And we always insist on that inlay being there because it can really breathe new life into trousers in 5 years' time. It's a small detail. These things are all small details. Going back to the turn-ups on the bottom, we have tapes on ours. These do not, which is fine. People do offer, some prefer to, some prefer not. The tape, of course, does help a little bit with wear and gives a little bit more weight to the trousers when they hang. Fundamentally, that's it. Ours, by the very nature of them, are a little bit slimmer, especially in the thigh area. But I'm not here to criticise anything. This is very typical, very nicely made, but some of the things just aren't necessary, and it's interesting. Suits off a peg. People get to expect certain things, but we always like to kind of stop you and say, well, these things that you're expecting, what are they for? Okay, so complicated fastening systems, nice, but what's the reasoning behind them? That, I think, is about it. I hope that helped, and thanks for dropping in. Do the usual, press a like button or something. Is that how it works? Follow us on Instagram, Redmayne1860 on Instagram, and you'll see what we're up to. But I hope that's at least enlightened you a little bit. Look at trousers a little bit more in detail in the future. Do not look at the brand. This is one of the biggest brands out there. I'm not saying it's a bad product, but it's not perfect. You cannot just depend on a label. All right? Lovely. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.